Hey everybody, my name is Monty, and today we're going to be looking at the work of Tolkien in the Fellowship of the Ring in light of the events of World War One. Now, I will tell you this: I enjoyed the book. I enjoy the Fellowship of the Ring quite a lot. I've always been a big Lord of the Rings fan. Movies mainly, and the Hobbit film especially. So I've always liked the work of Tolkien. I'm also a big history guy. History is my favorite subject. I'm actually taking a history class right now, and I absolutely love it. Most people dread gen eds, but every time I can take a history class, I swoop on the chance. And so I actually really enjoy looking at the historical context around the writing of the Fellowship of the Ring. And I was actually quite surprised with Tolkien's, with his story, with his background. I had no idea that he served in the military. If you don't know, maybe you just don't know, you aren't doing this project. Tolkien served as a second lieutenant, actually, in the British Army. So he was a little bit up there. He was in charge. He led soldiers into battle. He saw combat. He saw people die. He really saw the dark aspects of World War One. He understood what that war meant. And looking at it from a historical standpoint, World War One, man, that was a bloody war. Millions of people died. It was also a war where we saw a lot of advancements in combat techniques and combat strategies. We had the introduction of trench warfare, which was absolutely horrible. Um, Hundreds of thousands of men would be slaughtered in trench warfare alone. It was just a brutal way of fighting. We saw the introduction of the machine gun, and so now men are able to get off multiple shots at a time without having to reload. We saw the introduction of weaponized chemical gases, which would just produce gruesome deaths, and if the men didn't die, they would be disfigured. We saw the introduction of aircraft carriers, so it allowed for mass bombings of areas and of cities. Really, World War One was a dark time. The first Great War, and there wasn't really anything great about it. But I also think it was a war that came out of nowhere. At the turn of the 20th century, I don't think war was on the mind of many people. Maybe that's just kind of from the perspective of an American. Um, we as Americans, we were prospering economically. Um, Industrialization was happening at a rapid rate, and that was happening amongst a lot of the world superpowers. But I really don't think that war was on the mind of the common man in our world. It kind of came out of nowhere, and it kind of drew people in who had been unaffected, and people who, um, people outside of the big world powers. This war had the power of bringing so many people together to fight one another, and it was just incredibly dark. And I think Tolkien, as he's writing the Fellowship of the Ring, and he's writing about the adventures of these hobbits, I think he really picks up on that. For an example, I kind of just said how war was not on the mind of the common man. Um, Most men in the turn of the 20th century enjoyed a comfortable life, a prosperous life, and I can't help but to think of our hobbit friends. These guys lived in the Shire. They were very disconnected. There wasn't anything dark. They had a simple life. But this dark force was able to draw them out. And I really do think that Tolkien is playing off his own experience in the war as he's going through as he's kind of laying out for us the adventures of these hobbits. It was these almost innocent men drawn into an incredibly dark circumstance over really a petty object, a ring, this ring of power. Um, and so I really think that Tolkien highlights on maybe the common held view of a war at his time. That war is just taking these men who are disconnected from the world, who really did not know war was coming, and it's drawing them into incredibly dark circumstances. Not only that, but in Tolkien's work in the Fellowship of the Ring, the darkness that is portrayed, I mean, it is just incredible. Um, I couldn't help but shiver. You read the description of like the ring race, like these men gowned in black, and their horses are look like they're shadows. He's describing darkness in a way in which we commonly don't think, and so he's making darkness seem surreal. And that was, I think, almost the general consensus during World War One. It was a darkness they had never seen before. It was a darkness that, man, nobody was prepared to fight for. And I really do think that the events of World War One played heavily into Tolkien's writing of Fellowship of the Ring. And I think as we look at the characters and the progression they make, I think it also shows maybe the characteristics of men in war, how they come in like the hobbits and They're a little bit timid. They're ready for adventure, but by the end of it, they're a different character. And so I really do think, and it was actually kind of neat, kind of going through this assignment and looking at how World War One could have shaped Tolkien's views. Now we don't know that it did for sure. He never said, "Hey, I'm writing this in response to World War One." But it was interesting, and it definitely can bring a new lens to the book. It almost brings a new sense of power. You read, Fellowship of the Ring, and you're reading, you're going through, and then you're saying, hey, this, I can see this darkness elsewhere, and that darkness can be seen in World War One. So I thought that was interesting. I enjoyed this assignment. Thought it was kind of cool. It was different. It challenges you to read the book, and it challenged you to read the book in a new light. And it was really cool, kind of seeing Tolkien's historical context. I think it was really cool that he was a soldier. I didn't expect that. Tolkien was a man's man. I'll be honest. I was kind of viewed Tolkien. He's probably like a little sissy, but this dude knew how to fight. He was a soldier, and so I just kind of found that interesting. I found it neat, and it definitely brings a new light to this book. So I know the video was kind of scatterbrained, but I hope maybe that brings some light into how and into what lens and through what viewpoint Tolkien was writing his book. So with that, hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. Enjoy my website. Monty Montana out.